Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Tiger Minor League Report podcast. Week 3 recap here at TigersMLReport.com. I am Roy Haley, still alongside Ms. Brandon Day and Chris Brown. And Brandon Day joining us from BlessYouBoys.com. As there's a lot to get to this week. Plenty to recap, including a big week for Justice Bigbie and the Lakeland Flying Tigers. And I mean, there's just been a lot. Yeah. And did the Wings score there?
They
Chris?
did.
Yes. Okay.
Sorry.
Awesome.
I don't normally care that much, but man, it's been like super frenzied the last like 5 minutes, and they pulled the goalie and they tied it with 1:17 left.
I want to care about playoff hockey again so badly. So it would be great if they got in.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's okay. No, it's totally 100% the appropriate thing to do. We are fans of the sport, so might as well tune in on that. But the Tigers lose 1-0 to the Texas Rangers. It's wasted a very good effort from Reese Olson. The Tigers offense will continue. We felt good about yesterday. They came back in the 8th. Javi Baez had a home run, and then just flat out basura. As my dad would say, basura. You have Michael Lorenz on the ropes several times where he was the Tigers were drawing walks. They had runners in scoring position, and they went 0 for 8. Went 0
3 double
for
plays.
8.
Yeah.
What an asshole.
It was infuriating to watch. And Olsen was dealing. And then you see what you would like to call, I saw somebody on Twitter refer to as 1960s baseball, because that's how it looks with the Tigers right now, offensively speaking. And it was an interesting comment too on Twitter where somebody said, "I give you guys respect. I meant no disrespect, but you guys are." What was the exact? Well, here's the exact line. "I give you a lot of props, man." And this is from Sauce at Saucy Lions. For years, we've seen all these hitters, prospects dominate the minors and come up and suck. There's no way I can keep doing knowing that none of them will pan out. But you guys are really good at what you do, so I mean no disrespect. And I look at it this way. I just look at the guys like Cole Keith, they'll pan out, and I firmly believe that. Yeah.
Yep.
And it's just it's a thing where, honestly, gentlemen, what the Tigers have not been able to do. Not think about it from a spending standpoint. We all know they're not going to spend, or we're going to spend a lot there, if anything. But if there's one thing that this team still needs to do, identify wise, is that at some point you got to get bold with the trade. You got to do something but they're going to stay pat. And as much as I don't want to sound like a negative Nancy or a dick or whatever, it's going to be brutal this summer if it continues at this trend, though. Fans are just, I mean, we're not even in the middle of, we're just at the middle point of April right now, and at 9-7, it's still just unsatisfying.
Yeah, I don't really want to give in to that yet because, it could happen that the team is just terrible all season long. But I mean, I think we all know some of these guys are going to hit better than they have been. Spencer Torkelson is a complete disaster. I mean, you can be as frustrated as you want with his 1-1 status and the fact that he's been erratic and, reminds me of like streaky late period Justin Upton or something. But I mean, they're gonna score more runs than this.
Right.
I think about just like Friday and Saturday. They had balls to the warning track. Torkelson and Green both lined them off the left field wall. Those balls go out when it's another 10 degrees hotter. I don't want to turn into everybody's meteorologist here, but it's not the easiest conditions to hit in. You usually see a lot of low scoring games early in the season unless unless somebody just melts down and has given up a ton of walks. And I mean, you could look at Lorenzen today and say he was kind of melting down. Like he was making his first start of the year. He wasn't commanding really anything early on, but he just didn't give in. And the Tigers did. They swung at a few bad pitches. And when they did swing at a good pitch, they just tended to chop it right into the defense. And the Rangers are like the Tigers, but with like a couple of killers in the lineup. That's kind of what it is. They play really good defense. You don't see any like super weak links in the pitching staff, even though they don't have like an obvious ace type, either as a closer or as a dominant starter, at least until they get DeGrom and Scherzer back and see what they've got there. So, I mean, you're probably going to see a bunch of low-scoring games this series. I assume it's going to continue on cardiac cats fashion here for a while at least. But Torkelson's got to get it going. That's just what it comes down to. I don't know that there's any big point to dropping him in the lineup right now because you don't have that much else behind him that's going to come up and do any better. So they're just going to have to ride this out. And yeah, I mean, we can take solace that we still are above 500. Maybe that'll be over by the time the Rangers leave town. But they just got to hang in there in the early part of the season. And, we all know there's more help coming from the farm system probably. And I don't know that they're going to make a trade either, but I'm sure as hell going to be screaming for one if they're anywhere near, the division lead come July, because to not do that at this point is kind of criminal. So yeah, it was a frustrating watch today and kind of a microcosm of the early part of the season, but at least they've still won more than they've lost for now.
And I just want to say, I understand that person's comment, their sentiment about, not paying attention anymore because they can't develop hitters, right? Like I used to follow college football recruiting a decent amount. And then what would happen is these 5-star players would come up and not be any good. You go, I'll just wait until they actually prove it. And I get that. But, Riley Green's got a 136 WRC plus right now. So does Kerry Carpenter. Those are two guys from the system. It's early. You don't really notice it because because they're not scoring a ton of runs. Canna's 139. The issue, and Matt Vreling's like 103. All right, that's just Matt Vreling. Matty V 103. The issue, of course, you talked about Torkelson, 75 WRC plus, and then you've got Keith is at like 33. Meadows is like 14. Baez is -2. Yeah. Kelly and Rogers aren't really producing. They don't have the depth right now, and the guys down the lineup, they're just really cold. And we talked about it. We really believe that Colt Keith will get things figured out and turned around. I talked about it on our show the other day. Right now, he's and I got an article I'm writing about what's going on with Keith and Meadows. And Keith's batting average is like 70 points below his expected batting average. His slugging's 200 points below. He's the only batter in the majors right now with 2 outs on balls that have an expected batting average of 930 or better. He's the only one. There were 4 people in all of baseball last year who had 3 of those the entire season, and he's already got 2. So there's some bad luck. Parker Meadows isn't touching fastballs, which is strange because that wasn't really an issue for him last year or the year before. It was when he was younger. So there's a timing issue there they got to get figured out. But yeah, it's frustrating, and I get it. But doesn't mean we can't enjoy what the minors are doing. They're still fun.
And one way or the other, like this stuff is still going to matter. If the team is really good and people leave minors aside and don't want to pay attention that much anymore, that'd be great. I think for some of us, we'd be fine with that because it means the Tigers are good enough that you're totally locked in there. But, the cycle goes on. The organization goes, multi levels deep, and all this stuff matters. You're going to see pitchers coming up from Toledo all year. You might see Bigbie, probably going to see, Jace Young at some point. So, we saw Akil Baddoo go off this weekend. If things continue to go the way they are with Parker Meadows, you might see Baddoo back in there. It's the roster is, I just keep trying to remind people this. The roster is not just those 26 dudes. The roster is deeper than that. And there is some help coming, but it does come down to me just kind of to Torkelson. Like, if Torkelson's just hitting 250 and, chipping in a bomb a week or something, you're in a lot better place, even if he's not hot. And having him struggling right now is really kind of killing him.
Especially too, when you look at the fact that Kiston Hira down in Toledo is not, you're not really sure. Let's face it. I mean, he is who he is. Is he going to be your permanent solution at first? No, I mean, but then again, you also look down in AA, like guys like Jake Holton, same thing. So you have to, and even with like the second coming of Jose Briceno, I mean, he's still in A, and you don't even know he's still in single A, and B, well, that actually works out. A, he's still in single A, and B, at the same time, you still, as Chris and I talked about this on Thursday, is it a combination of what Chris mentioned? Is it just strength? Is it a combination of just, is it his bat speed? Does he have that bat speed? And I also, you look at single A in terms of pitching, it is night and day, comparatively speaking, to high A. And there's a level there where you hope that, I mean, I think he could handle high A. It's not that I doubt that whatsoever, but at the same time, it's also about timing. Like I mentioned, if he gets in the high A now, or like let's say in a month from now, he's still going to face premium pitching. If he gets in the high A towards the end of the summer, well, everybody's gone to double A. You're facing some new college kids. That might not be much of the same challenge. So it's going to be two different types of challenge with that. But either way, regardless, they don't really have an alternative but just to put Torkelson out there.
Yeah, well, you could put Canna at first base, and then you send Torkelson down, and then you call up Jaden, plop him in left, and he just goes nuts, right? I don't know. I think something we are seeing, and I wonder if you guys would agree with this, but it just seems like the jump has gotten steeper over the last couple of years from AAA, to the majors, and maybe it isn't as steep from AA to AAA as it was, but it just feels like we've seen an awful lot of people from Kellenick to I mean, you can even look at Julio Rodriguez, struggling this season and kind of being streaky early in his career. It's just a challenge. They're game planning the hell out of these hitters, and you're reacting. You can't game plan for them. You can sit there all you want to and take in information and see their pitches, and you can dial them into your fancy batting machine if you've got one and all that stuff. But I don't know. If I look at Keith and Meadows right now, it just looks like they've just got too many possibilities in the head, and just need to just shut their mind down and just sit fastball, and just let their kind of natural abilities work. Because Meadows looks like he's just thinking himself out of at bats entirely. And Keith isn't quite as reactive and quick as we're used to seeing him. 98 isn't any slower at AAA than it is in the majors, but he's a little bit later. He's got more in the cabeza, thinking about breaking balls and everything. And those guys just have to kind of find their way to like that mental place where you're comfortable. So hopefully that won't take too long, but yeah. I understand why people are pissed. I understand why they're frustrated, but it is kind of hilarious also to, be like 8-6 and everybody's just, completely enraged. Like nobody promised you the World Series. I'm sorry. We're still a little ways away, but
yeah. And I think for young guys like Keith and Meadows, it's you probably feel even more pressure when nobody is producing, when the team isn't scoring any runs. Like if the rest of the team was scoring 10 runs and you were struggling, it's fine. Like there was the game the other day where I think Keith and Meadows combined to strike out like 7 times, but the Tigers won 8-0 or 8-2 or whatever. And it was like, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, when it's 1-0 or you're struggling to get any hits, I think there's more pressure there.
Yeah.
And
they're going to play those type of games a lot, as we know. They're a run prevention team. They don't have a couple extra killer hitters like Marcus Semien or Corey Seager or whoever else you want, White, whatever.
I mean, even with a guy like, for example, Jonah, their catcher.
Oh yeah,
he can have an off day, and he's still going to be a guy who always I find threatening to the Tigers. He had a double, and the Wings did win. Okay, so that is
nice.
All right.
All right.
So they'll play They played the original 6 matchup with the Montreal Canadiens. I love when one of my missions is to go to a game. Maple Leafs Wings game in Toronto.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So Raymond scored the game tire and the game winner.
All right.
Play the old brass bonanza.
Let's go, Luke.
Oh wait, you know what? Yeah, I could do that because brass bonanza is the greatest. The greatest.
Is that gonna get a copyright issue?
No, if I play the first 5 seconds of it and then quickly go away from it, no, it's not going to. It's it's one of those things. It's one of those songs too on the NHL. Every time I hear it on NHL 94, because they played it. I think they played it, didn't they?
Yeah, that's how I know it. Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, for those who are not familiar with this song, the whole beginning. Hell yeah. drumming here.
I think they played this in the Queen's Gambit too, didn't they? Like
It's possible.
Yep, they did. They did play this in the Queen's Gambit. You are correct. This song rules. I'm sorry. That song rules. All right. Anyway,
That's right up there with
very
the old
60s. Yeah, very
old
60s to me.
NFL films music.
yeah.
But anyway,
So no, there's a and look, I by the way, Carlos Pena, fantastic.
Yeah, I'm loving Carlos Pena for sure.
Yeah, when Todd Jones is speaking, I mean, it sounds like Carlos Pena went to Harvard and Todd Jones went to community college when they're both on at the same time. Like honestly, like there's like him going, well, my daughter, runs the social media on Valley Sports, and Pena's like, well, what he's doing right here is not barreling it up correctly, and he's just going on, and just like sitting there going,
yeah,
I'm learning so much, and Jason's just setting him up.
Yeah,
and
yeah, it's such a good pairing.
Yeah,
I ran into him in the box the other night, and I was like, man, he's got a face for TV too. That's a handsome fella.
Yeah, and he's just super polished, and like you say, like, I mean, if Craig Monroe gets around to explaining something well, it just takes him like 4 times as long as Pena. He's just very concise.
Yeah.
And the banter between the two of them is hilarious. We've seen like Gibby and a few of the other kind of old hands like just taken aback by Benetti's sense of humor and sarcasm and stuff like that, and Pena just seems to fit right in there. I love Petrie too. Like if I can get Petrie and Pena in there with Benetti and no one else except in little bursts, that'd be ideal for me. I'd be happy as a clam. And I see Benetti settling in because he's just getting funnier, and he's gonna annoy some people because he is just a chatty, hilarious dude. And but he doesn't miss much, and the broadcasts have been way better in my opinion, and I think most people agree based on our general surveying.
Yeah, no doubt. It is a total. Yeah, and the YouTube user said it correctly. There's a reason why those 2 guys have national deals as well.
Yeah,
and definitely correct them on that. So,
yeah,
it is a 9-day difference on the broadcast line. Again, nothing against Matt Shepard or anything. He's fine. All right, let's go into our weekly report. We brought this back. It's just been. We've not had a chance. The last few weeks has just been running around, and I realized, like Chris mentioned, he goes, "Are we bringing this back?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, it's buried in." And it was one of my formats. It was buried somewhere, so I had to dust it off and put it out here. And so, Brandon, you may be familiar with this, but yes, the weekly recap sheets are back, and so for everybody who watches the podcast, it just makes it easier to see what's going on with all our systems across the board. And Toledo. 9-6 overall. They went 5-1 against Indianapolis, and they beat Paul Skeen. Or was that with the Paul Skeen game?
That was Friday. Game? I don't recall if they won that one or not. It was a fun. Skeens versus Montero was a lot of fun. Skeens was just mowing people down, but Montero was just as effective. He just walked a couple of guys.
They did win that game. Yeah, 4-3. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and in terms of like even a guy like Devin Sweet, who's done pretty well, who has been quote unquote a starter as kind of like an opener. But the number I really am excited about was Dylan Dingler going 5 for 14 in a period of time. That's good consistency. I'm not sure. I'd like to see that another week of good at bats. But I mean, in addition to him, we'll get to Justice Bigbie here in a second. But I don't know, between Dingler and Badu and Badu definitely needed to get back off of Stein a little bit. Overall, I thought it was a very good week for the offense, who scored double-digit runs on Saturday and Sunday, I believe.
Yeah. Yep. They went off. Yeah, it was 13-4, I think, in game 2 on Saturday, and then 16-6. So yeah, there was plenty of power coming. I mean, Dingler, when he got up there last year, we're all worried about his bat, or if there's just not a lot of consensus that Dylan Dingler is going to be even as good a hitter as say Jake Rogers. But we all like the defense, so. Seeing him go up last year and struggle, I really kind of worried what things would look like for him so far. So it is really, really nice to see him get out to a good start at least. Hopefully he can build on that, because at some point this year we know the Tigers are going to need him. So that's good to see. And yeah, Badu, he's probably just going to be fill-in material here and there. I'm sure they're going to try to establish Meadows, with everything they've got this year out there, because having him out there defensively is so important. But the offense does obviously need a spark, and you're kind of looking at anybody that you could call up right now because they're not going to call up Young, and probably shouldn't right now because he's still whiffing a lot despite doing a lot of damage. So yeah, good to see from Dingler for sure.
Dingler was leading them in average exit velocity for a little while until Bigbie kind of went off at the end of this week. So Bigbie's number 1 at 91.5, but Dingler's 91.4, so not far behind. He's always had that raw power.
Yeah.
It's just Raj and I have talked about him as being a really frustrating player because he'll have these good weeks and then he'll go like 1 for 19.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about, there's a pitcher in the system that reminds me of that, but we'll talk about him in the next segment.
Yeah, you just kind of hope that he comes along the way Rodgers did, where it never actually got any better for Rodgers. He just got more and more selective and understood better and better what he could do and all the things he couldn't, and he stopped trying to do those other things for the most part. Maybe there'll be some kind of simplification process for Dingler that works the same way. There's so much to learn and work on as a catcher that you can give him a little bit longer. So maybe it won't be until he's 26, 27 that we really know, but yeah, it would really help things out if he got it going.
For sure.
I just wanted to show this nice blaster by Justin Henry Malloy.
Yeah, that was crushed.
Deep
Quick
center, going back, watching it go. This ball game is tied.
They tie the game there, and
then somebody asked, where does Justin Henry Malloy play on defense if he gets called up this season? And it's left field or right field, probably left field. Maybe, I don't know, right? It's tough in Comerica because left field's so big.
Yeah, right field's easier, really, in most respects.
I'm
I don't know. What do you
surprised
guys think about his throwing? Like, as far as like if he's throwing from the outfield, he's always had like enough arm strength to play third base, but he definitely doesn't have a cannon and wasn't terribly accurate. So,
there was a couple throws last year where we saw him, and basically this was actually the opening series against Nashville. Nashville's like, we're gonna run on you. We don't care. I mean, there's a couple balls that hit the left. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chris. I think there was one where there was kind of an adventure for him out there. It was one of the first fly balls, and they tagged up really easily. His arm, I'm sorry, I don't want to say it's like Christian Stewart. I think it's a little better than Christian Stewart as far as like accuracy goes, but it's average arm. It's not.
Yeah, he had an outfield assist. I think he threw somebody out at second. I don't know if it was this week or last week, but it's okay. Yeah, I don't think I think he had an adjustment period to the arm motion from the outfield, but yeah, I don't. It's certainly not a weapon, but I don't know if it's going to be a huge hindrance either.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I mean, it's so different because you're for the most part you're trying to set up. Like if you're running to the ball and guys are running the bases, you're just whipping it in there as soon as you can. But it seemed to me like watching him at third base, it was more. When he's on the move, when he's off balance, he's not going to make the throws. He just didn't have the mobile platform to make those kind of throws at third base. And I'm sure that's the same in the outfield. But if you can set up behind it and do everything perfectly, like one Riley Q Green did tonight, and absolutely pegged a dude at home plate, that might be enough because Riley doesn't have a cannon either. But if you do everything right and set up and throw a strike, that's enough under most circumstances.
If you do the Tom Urbanski fundamentals, you'll be fine.
Yeah, and that's what. Yeah, Green. It was perfect tonight. Really got his momentum moving in the direction right to home plate, and it was a perfect strike. So, yeah, I think they said that was his first ever time he's thrown somebody out at home. So he's been an awesome defender this year, no matter what. And so I think Malloy will be adequate in the outfield on a Kerry Carpenter kind of level. It might be sometimes an adventure with sliding for no apparent reason, but I don't know. It's just where they are right now is doesn't seem like they just want to put them on the 40 man, or that they're using all their options on the 40 man first.
Yeah. And it's tricky because you don't, where do you put them? The one flaw with, there's a couple flaws with the Tigers roster, of course, but I mean, the one like detail type thing that I don't like about it is that they can't really send anybody down. McKinstry doesn't have an option. Veerling does. I think Ibanez does, but they're not going to send him down. And so it's just hard to get someone else up there. If when Ibanez comes back, Wenzel's going back down, and that's probably going to be what they wrote, because it's just hard to figure out what to do with them, which makes me kind of wonder why they it's like either trade them or or don't, because either trade him or play him, because I just don't know that sitting in AAA for a whole nother year is going to do anything for anyone other than devalue him. So
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was we have to wonder if Eddie Leonard was healthy, and if
Kreidler
didn't get injured where he even gotten the call. But I mean, then again, he was hitting the ball pretty good. I mean, he was stinging the ball. He wasn't like he was getting cheated or anything like that, and he wasn't looking bad out in right field either. But at this point, when we're down there and hearing that Hinch didn't really want to play him in the outfield unless he really had to, that says something. And so that's where you have to wonder, okay, well, his future here in Detroit, if you're gonna, there you have a couple players that are just trying to figure out exactly how to go about it and how to fit them in the lineup already. So it's just, I don't know. I would love to think that there would be a long-term future for him here, but I don't know. I don't see it. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying not to,
I mean, if he gets a little better in the outfield and he's not a problem, but it's just, he's got to be a force. And I think, the flip side to the Hinch thing is that if he really believed Malloy was going to come up and just wreck shop, he'd be fine with it. He'd figure out a way to use him, and maybe he's your DH half the time, and he's your pinch hitting weapon off the bench or something like that. And maybe we'll see some of that at some point. But I also don't necessarily get the sense that they're that confident that he's going to come right up and mash either. The plate discipline is great, but he's going to see nothing but junk. And as we've seen, he tends to struggle with it. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what to do with that situation. It's one of those awkward roster spots that, and players that just doesn't quite gel that well anywhere. So he would have fit perfectly in with an older Tigers team, 2015 Tigers or something.
So here's something that has confused me a little bit. I thought Eddie Leonard was on the 40-man roster.
I'm sure he is, but he's not listed for some reason.
He's
but
not
then
listed.
if you count him up through, the Tigers PR thing that they sent out today, I went and counted them all up, and he's got to be on there.
Well, I'm looking at the Toledo roster, and it says he's not on the 40-man roster.
Really?
Yeah, and I mean, I had the same thing earlier this year. I'm like, why is Eddie Leonard not on the 40-man roster, and he's not there on the Tigers, and he's listed as not on the 40-man on Toledo.
So is it the Nelson Mandela effect, where we thought he was on the roster? We thought he was on the roster.
I mean, I thought that was the whole reason they got him, right? That because he was on the Dodgers 40-man roster, and they couldn't, they needed space, and so the Tigers swiped him up. And I thought we would have noticed if they had passed him through waivers at some point or whatever, but I don't know. It's a strange thing, because the one thing we didn't mention, that they went and they claimed Ty Adcock from the Mariners today and added him to the 40-man, and they're like, and the 40-man's now at 40. And I was like, I thought it already was at 40.
Yeah.
And nobody's on the 60-day IL, and Leonard's not mentioned on the roster, so I don't know.
Wait.
And I just added it up. I just went through this right here. I've got the 40-man roster, and there's 39. 39 guys. So I don't know what's going on.
They added Ty Adcock.
Yeah.
The right-hander from what? Why?
I don't know. They sent him to Toledo.
Yeah, but they never announced like a corresponding, like no one was dropped from the 40-man or DFA'd. I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on there.
I mean, his numbers into whatever. What do I know?
Well, he's been hurt. I don't know. The only thing I can say about Ty Adcock is that he does have pretty good stuff, and he's been hurt a lot, and maybe that explains some of the wildness. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he was in the big leagues last year, and did he give up a run last year? I don't think he did. Let's see. Oh no, he did. Yes, he gave up many runs. But 3.45 ERA and 15 2/3 innings. He didn't walk anybody. That's what it was.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. They must like something about his stuff, and we'll see. They've done pretty well with acquisitions like this.
It's hard to argue too much with the Tigers in the pitching department. Yeah,
that's why
he's only got he's got less than 50 innings since 2021. So there's obviously been some problems there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I totally missed it. It was probably when I was doing a bunch of the graphics today, when I was just.
And Adcock is listed. Yeah. They've got Adcock on the 40-man here. I'm looking right at him, but I don't know.
Really?
It's kind of odd. I thought maybe like they did something with Brendan White because he was going to the developmental squad or whatever. I thought maybe there was some injury thing that might pop up there, but no, I don't know.
It's confusing. So
Well, see, I don't have him here on this version of the 40 man. I don't have him. So, oh, never mind. I see him. Okay, on top. Never mind. Okay.
And Sweet, they cleared through waivers, didn't they?
yeah,
Okay,
he
so
did,
he shouldn't be there. All right.
Sweet and Hopkins. Kennedy is still on the 40 man, I believe.
Yeah, correct.
Yep.
Yeah, but I don't know. Maybe we'll have to, I don't know who we would talk to. We have to talk to,
Gargo.
yeah, well, Gargo or Scott Harris.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Maybe our boy talked to Jeff Greenberg today and got the answer. I don't know.
Yeah, there you go.
No, yeah. Although I was seeing somebody in Discord saying that Jeff Greenberg is pretty much essentially Ed Harris. Wow. Scott Harris part 2. So yeah.
I mean, that's
just another McKinsey auditor sent out to explain the corporate policies to you. I mean, as a lowly employee. Anyway.
All right. Well, you guys, I'm going to step out for a moment. So I'm just going to let you guys go into Erie as the SeaWolves had a really interesting homestand, by the way. They lost power yesterday again.
Oh.
They lost power twice during the week.
Yeah.
And I felt bad for them because they were having opening day. They lost power on opening day. So the poor the salesperson who was doing all the merch, she had to do everything by hand, literally by hand, put all the orders in at the end of the night and just manually go about the whole thing.
No.
Yeah.
That's
and so they were having, and then during the broadcast was down for a minute. It was all hell broke loose in Erie this week, but they finished 3-2. Again, this is a team, and they're in first place. It's a veteran laced team, and this is a team that's doesn't have the offense. But I'll let Chris get into that while I step away for just a moment.
All right.
Yeah, that was a pretty good summation there. I did when they lost power, they were getting Hawkeye pitch classification, but it was like 2 pitches behind, and then they had no idea of location and speeds and stuff like that. So it was tough out there. But yeah, we've talked about it. It's a lot of veterans on this team, not a lot in the way of what we would consider prospects. But they pitch pretty well, and they just kind of scrappy. Gage Workman had a huge 3-run homer over the course of the week. I didn't put him in there, but they were down 6-3, and I think he tied it with a 3-run homer, which is, this is his 3rd season in Erie, so he's seen just about everything you can see up there.
Yeah.
But Brady Allen was kind of one of the interesting guys we wanted to see this year because he was a power bat down in West Michigan. And he's off to a slow start, but he found his extra base power this week. He's still, striking out a fair amount, and I do wonder if that's going to be an issue. But got his first home run, had a pair of triples.
Yeah.
And a double, which was nice to see.
Kind of seems like he does a lot of things right out there too. Like he's just like pretty solid at everything, like the type of guy who might end up coaching someday because he's just very rock solid. You don't see him, make too many mistakes. You don't see him give away too many at bats either.
Yeah.
He's not quite talented enough probably, but
he's a very solid outfielder.
Yeah.
And he's a very good defender, even though he has the curse of being a right-handed hitter and a left-handed thrower. But yeah, good defender, and so he's a nice piece up there. But again, it might be kind of. He and Chris Myers are really your 2 big power bats there, and I have Myers down there. Myers went 1 for 13, so if he's not hitting home runs and Allen's not hitting home runs, it's kind of tough for them to scratch off runs. We've already seen them get a little bit more aggressive this year, stealing more bases.
Yeah, you got a couple decent hitters in like Cruz, and obviously How You Lee is the one sort of prospect hitter who's still there. But yeah, not that much threat, but maybe enough like veteran talent there to score enough runs, and the rotation is pretty good. They do have the pitching. So we saw Steven Scott, the left-handed hitting catcher that they claimed from Boston, hit a home run right after Allen. Yeah, so he had 2 this weekend. So, if you put a bunch of 25-year-old dudes into Double-A, oftentimes they'll perform pretty well, even if it doesn't mean something, at the major league level. They'll just be the guys that we're getting, questions about constantly. Like, is this guy going to be getting like, no, I'm sorry.
That was Quincy Naporti a couple years ago, and won the MVP, hit 31 bombs or whatever. He was basically had mastered Double-A hitting, but that was apparently kind of his ceiling.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Scott has been a pleasant surprise there, and Alfonso has been nice. They're not. I don't think they're the most gifted defensive tandem behind the plate, but that's what they have here at this level. So
yeah, I haven't really seen Scott that much behind the plate, just a little bit. So I don't have too much to say yet. I don't know.
Yeah, it was fine. I saw a couple. I know he's played other positions too, and there were just a couple times where he just dropped the ball, like literally just like didn't catch it completely, which you kind of take that for granted when you see MLB catchers catch every single pitch. Like
Yeah.
I mean, unless it's 10 feet over their head. But in the minors, you still see guys, and we'll get to that with Jose Briceno. But yeah, no, I guess we could go to that pitching because it's an awfully fun rotation. We Jackson Jobe, of course, is the big name that everybody talks about, and you can see both of his starts if you go to our YouTube page. And the stuff is obvious. It's always been obvious, at least the last year or so. It's just he's still dialing in his control right now, and I think he's finding that AA hitters aren't quite as likely to chase.
Yeah.
And he also got squeezed a bit by the ump. Something Raj and I were talking about today is if you watch these minor league umps, they miss a lot of actual strikes.
Yeah, and then you go to the catching as well. I mean, like all those issues. I mean, if you put Jobe, in a major league context right now, he'd probably have some struggles as well because there's still some control issues to work through. But it would look a lot better. It's always something you have to keep in mind down there. He's he hasn't really pitched that much is the other thing.
Yeah.
And just the way the Tigers are using kind of all their prospect pitchers, these little short outings. I don't know. It's probably just going to be a little bit for them to get into rhythm because he dominated the first couple innings and looked great. And then, just kind of lost the plot and started throwing it around a little bit.
Yeah, and there was one. I think it was that third inning where he got really squeezed on a bat. Like he thought he'd struck the dude out, and he did. I think it was a slider over the heart of the plate, and I guess the ump ruled it high, and then it kind of unraveled there. And that's stuff you'll see in the minors. I'm not concerned about the walks. I don't think it's going to be a huge issue going forward. I think maybe the command was a little overblown last year. I think he threw a lot of strikes, but I don't think he's Greg Maddux.
Yeah, it was control. He threw a lot of strikes, but still not necessarily like locating the fastball to both sides of the plate, setting people up. Yeah. There's those detailed things he needs to learn and to use how to to work over different hitters, mix different sequences together. So there's things to work on. Even if you called him up right now, he might be a fifth starter, fourth starter somewhere, but you don't want him to come up and be a fourth starter. You want him to come up 100% ready to go. So
yeah, and we'll say I imagine he'll get locked in here over the next 4 weeks or so, and then we'll be in for a treat. But I alluded earlier about how Dylan Dingler is kind of frustratingly inconsistent, and Ty Madden is that pitcher for me in this system. I swear, every year he comes out and dominates in his first start, and then it's just average kind of mess stuff. Like he and to a lesser extent, Kiter Montero will have these spells where they just lose the zone for like 2 to 3 batters out for no apparent reason, and then they get themselves in trouble. Now Montero is getting better at that and doesn't get has been able to limit damage, but for Madden it still snowballs on him, and then he'll come back out and pitch 2-3 more solid innings. But it's been frustrating, and this is his he spent all of last year in Double A.
Like part of people might see from Joey.
Yeah, Joey Wentz. That's a good call. Yeah, just not enough quality strikes when you need them, and just out of nowhere. Like I said, he'll strike out 2 guys in a row, and then the next batter it's 4 straight balls. And you're like, what happened? It's strange.
Yeah, it just goes haywire. Yeah. I mean, with Wentz, I've always just been like, well, he's long-legged.
Yeah,
hard to get all that crane and everything lined up right. But yeah, Madden. Like, God, when he's going good, I mean, that slider is so goddamn nasty. And, he's just pumping 97, 98 in there with better ride than he had, a year or two ago. And it looks pretty good, but there's just, I don't know, there's just that third element kind of missing there. And sometimes it's command, and sometimes it's not really having a third pitch that he's that comfortable with some days. Yeah. You see days when he kind of starts to lean into the cutter again. That's you'd like that to work out, but that always seems like a sign that it's not going well to me. Like he's starting to feel for something. He doesn't trust something, and then he starts trying to just mix all this other stuff in, throws himself out of whack. But that's the hard part of getting better at pitching. It's just there's so much precision involved.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a heck of an arm, and you still hold out hope. It's I'm not to say that I'm like super down on him or anything like that. It's just it's been kind of frustrating. It's been slower than you'd hope. Now Troy Melton, Raj was there for that start. I don't know if Raj is lurking in the background and wants to talk about it, but he was it was interesting. We went and saw his first start in West Michigan last year, and it was kind of similar, where it seemed like he was just a little amped up and was losing the zone a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And he almost had to come out of this game in the third inning. Like, he was like 3 pitches away from having to come out, and then he got a double play and then got like a 2-pitch pop out and was able to come back out in the fourth and had a really nice fourth. So that was something you like to see. And Rogelio had, video of him talking after the game, and he seems like a super fun, gregarious kid that I'm hoping we can get on the show one of these days, because I like his attitude, and he just seems fun. So,
and he knows a lot about what he's doing. I can't remember if it was Seidel or Evan Petzel, but one of them had a really good interview with him, in spring camp, just him talking about how much he'd learned, how raw he was coming out of college. And if anyone wants to see like how far Troy Melton has gone and why, and part of why we're so high on him, just go back and look at like his mechanics in his last year of college and where he is now. He's just absolutely transformed into a completely different human being as a pitcher, and seems to really, enjoy the process of pitch design and understanding his mechanics and, everything that goes into developing your body to pitch well and locate and be durable. So he was a really good interview, and I'm sure if you guys had a chance to talk to him, it'd be a really fun conversation. I'm stoked about that dude just because he's coming along so fast, and the stuff is electric when he's on. Probably the second best in the system, at least in my mind, to Job. So I'm a big Melton believer, but again, early season, minor leagues, chilly weather.
Just you want him to stay healthy, and we were talking. Somebody was yelling about the Tigers doing this with their pitchers, with their 4 innings here, 3 innings, not stretching them out. And I get it, but at the same time, we don't have a huge track record to say this is working or it isn't working. But they didn't really lose any of their big pitchers last year.
Yeah,
and this year it's basically Tyler Madison, who is a reliever, and that's a different animal altogether.
Yep, Sawyer, Gibson, Long, but
we don't know.
But you look at the injuries all these other teams are having. I mean, there's panic on the internet all over the place that some new epidemic is breaking out. That doesn't actually seem to be the case, but it's pretty hard to yell at the Tigers for trying to do something different. I don't know how we haven't ever had a long conversation about like why pitcher injuries are up and gone into that whole topic, but by and large, I'm of the mind that most of the problem comes before guys are like 20. So once you get to this level, you gotta air it out. You gotta do everything you can to be the best pitcher you can. And if slow playing these guys through April so that they can go 5 months and turn them loose to throw 80-90 pitches. Hopefully, maybe they won't do that. I don't know, but 80-90 pitches an outing, whatever it takes. I thought like some of the ones that are weird to me are like Colin Fields. Started he pitched on Tuesday against Quad Cities.
Yeah, and I think he struck out the first 6 batters he faced.
Just went off and struck out 8, and then came back on Sunday against them. And maybe they just didn't want him to face the same team again for a longer outing, but only went 2 innings and didn't give up any runs and struck out 4 and still looked pretty good. So it's kind of interesting to sort of try to puzzle out what they're thinking exactly, but. They got to try something different.
They were doing that last year as well. So anytime that somebody got 2 starts in a week, they would limit them in the second start.
Okay,
it may be later in the season. It may be like 6 and 3 or something like that. But and they talk about the amount of ups they want guys to do. How many times they get up and that they must have lots of research that suggests getting ramped back up for each inning adds a little bit more stress, and you want to limit that. And I don't know. I mean, this is their jobs and their livelihoods, and I don't have an issue with them doing it. It makes these early games kind of tough for the managers, I think, and it puts a lot of stress on the bullpen. But it does, we know that for years they've been limiting guys to their total inning totals. And the way they do it this way is you're ramping them up, and then they're still available if you make a playoff run like Erie did last year, and it's nice.
You want them to be, the beginning of the year is the least important. So you want them healthy when guys have played a whole season, all the hitters are dialed in, people are moving up levels, and maybe you're getting toward some kind of a playoff run. Not that they care that I assume this isn't like a Dave Littlefield thing where they really want to win, the Eastern League title, but you do, that's what you're there for. You got to have some kind of a goal at the end of the season.
Yeah, we talked about that with, I think we talked with Garko about that. You're not like, your goal
He
isn't
did.
to go out there and win the Eastern League Championship, right? Like they're not going to hold prospects like they sent Bigbie up at the end of
Right.
last year. Like,
And Digler. Yep.
but if you want your players to experience that, you want them to play for something, you want them to feel the playoff, the tension, and I think that's good.
Yeah.
And I think
and to learn how to like kind of bond together as a team and like sort of,
Yeah.
figure out how to be a good teammate and, in that kind of context for sure.
Yeah. So, but we, we kind of bogged down here, but we could talk, Will Kell, he was a guy that got bumped up to Double-A. I wasn't expecting that. And so far he's holding his own. He doesn't really have swing and miss stuff, but he's got velocity and he's thrown enough strikes. So that's solid to see.
Mhm.
Tim Naughton, Raj, didn't you say Tim Naughton was touching 96, 97, something like that?
Yeah. Naughton looked pretty good actually when I was out there. I think I saw him opening night or the Wednesday. I can't remember, but I did see him for an extended period of time.
Right on.
And,
all right, you guys take it over for a second. I'm going to go take a break.
All right, no problem.
Yeah. No, did you answer the question about Lee there, by the way?
I'm sorry, I missed that. About what his
if he has considered to be a full-time player. That's a great question. And I think, and I did an article about Lee when I saw him out there doing a live look. He's hunting fastballs. He's making a pretty good adjustment from high A. Is he going to be a full-time player? I think he has enough ability to do so. I think he's, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he's younger. He's one of the younger players in.
I want to say he's 21.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you would say that there's anything about him that's plus. Like I don't know if he has a plus tool, but he may be above average as a hitter down the road, which is the key. Let's see, how old is he? 21. Yeah, turned 21 in February. But yeah, I think he could be an average second baseman down the road. I mean, they're playing him in multiple positions right now. I think second base is probably his best position, but he's. I was a little bit worried. His first series, he didn't take any walks, but then he came out this week and walked more than he struck out. And I think the power ceiling, I don't know. It depends on how much he, hunts power, how much he pulls the ball. But I think, there's a potential average second baseman there. It's, he just needs to continue growing as a player.
Yeah. I mean, he shows a pretty good range of the field too. Somebody was asking this about my thoughts about Troy Melton's appearance, or Troy Melton's first Double-A start. Outside not having command of his slider, I thought he did a pretty good job with this fastball. Guy's got huge hands, by the way. He shook everybody's hand before the media were going down there, and shook his hand. I was like, just massively, he took over my hand. But no, he's got a very kind of like Bo Brisky in a sense that he's cool and under pressure kind of vein, and under pressure with that. And so, but yeah, he even said, like, look, I didn't have command away from righties, and he got away with a couple pitches where Binghamton really just made solid contact, but they somehow stayed in the ballpark. And I think in the summertime they would have been gone. But overall, pretty solid debut.
Yeah, and like you said, he knew exactly what his issue was, and he didn't. Yeah. I don't know if he necessarily knew why that was the issue, but he knew what he needed to fix. The only one I wanted to mention, Lyle Lockhart there. I just kind of say this jokingly. He came in relief in one of those games and gave up 3 runs, and I don't know, like, what is that old saying? Like, never do a crap job well, right? Like,
yeah,
like his numbers out of the bullpen last year: 7.98 ERA as a starter, 2.28. So I just think for whatever reason, relief doesn't suit him as much as starting. So yeah, I'm sure that he might lobby for more starts in the future.
All right, let's move on to West Michigan, and a pretty good week. Again, I say that in some way in terms of like the pitching wise, offensively speaking, this is a team that's going to be, especially when you look at Isaac Pacheco's numbers, 2 for 20 on the week, 10 strikeouts, no walks. But a friend of the show, I know Stan's a big fan of Steph Stevenson. Had a pretty good week. Max Anderson, who we had Zeke out there. By the way, great job to Zeke Jennings for going out there and doing an interview with them, and it took time. And also give props to Lynn, who is the new director of marketing out there at West Michigan. Has done a fantastic job thank you, Lynn, for being so accommodating. And also want to give some props to, we had a gentleman taking pictures for us over the weekend, Gavin Parm. I got your pictures and I will be putting them up. Thank you. I just have not had a chance to properly thank you. And also props to, we're just at Erie, and before I forget, Mike Goleski, who's the Erie's photographer, does fantastic work. I mean, if you see some of his stuff with, I showed a Troy. I think I showed you the Troy Melton picture earlier, right, Chris?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's he does a really good job. So we'll give you guys the accounts to follow them on Twitter. But either way, West Michigan, again, Jaden Hamm, the Jaden Hamm show on Saturday, went out there. There's a couple pictures he got away with that he hung up, but overall looked really good. No walks, 3 hits, 1 run, 7 strikeouts. And Dylan Smith struggling with command a little bit, but a guy that I got to watch a little bit today was Carlos Mercado. And Brandon, I wanted to get your thoughts on guys like Mercado, who he may not get a lot of strikeouts, but perhaps offer that org feel to him. But they seem like there's something interesting with him a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, he's still young enough to kind of see if maybe he can build up a little more velo and become a little bit of a Foley-ish type reliever, perhaps. Something along those lines. He does get a fair amount of ground balls. I haven't watched him a ton because the strikeout totals don't pop, and I'm kind of, I'm kind of scouting based on the stat line at least, and then going and looking at guys a lot. So I haven't seen him a lot, but there's at least potential there to be some kind of a depth starter type guy and possibly like a middle reliever. The slider's not bad. I don't really have a good feel about his changeup. I don't know. Have you guys seen him throw a lot? I haven't seen him throw that many times, but he at least looks like the sinker is like a quality pitch. And I have a lot more faith these days in the Tigers, like building a dude up, physically to get the most out of that. If you can throw that pitch, you can go a long way with just that. And then it's just a question of whether or not he can command it and build up the secondary stuff a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I found I actually haven't watched him yet this year, but I watched him a couple times last year. He seemed to always be pitching against Bradenton and St. Lucie. And I thought it was a usable changeup. Like it's a pitch that he feels comfortable throwing. And so he's got the 3 pitches he needs. And I guess 4 he's mostly a sinker guy, but I think he'll toss in a 4-seamer every now and then.
Yeah.
I don't know. He doesn't spin it like Kiter did back in the day, but I don't know. There may be more in the tank down the road. It just, you feel like he's physically maxed out already. He's kind of he's a shorter guy, but that doesn't necessarily mean he can't find more velo down the road. And I think he's like 92, 94. So I don't know, he's an interesting name. He's very young. So just a guy to keep an eye on. I don't know.
He's in the interesting bin, sort of like not really a prospect yet, but somebody to keep an eye on. I kind of have Fields in that too. Doesn't throw very hard, but has some interesting spin rates and a kind of a weird cutter that looks like it could actually be a real cut fastball, but not overpowering in any way yet. So
I think if we expanded our list to 50 guys, that they would probably both be on there.
Yeah.
But I just from watching West Michigan this week, they were getting no hit like a bunch. Like there was like oh boy, no hits. There was one game that didn't get a hit until the 9th inning, I think, or 7th inning. But
I was gonna say Zeke's in the chat too. I was just wondering what he thought of thought about the offense while he was out there. As you were continuing, I'm sorry, Chris, go ahead.
Oh, nothing. I mean, I think we could talk about Jaden Hamm again. You put that video up earlier. I saw it. It was it's fun to watch. We were joking about like he and Melton have like the diametrically opposed arm path. Like Melton is the real short arm, and Hamm just has this super long arm path. But I like the fastball, I like the changeup, like the breaking ball. I think we talked earlier. I like his fastball up quite a bit. I feel like when he throws it down, it gets hit hard. And I don't know if they can fix that with a sinker or what they can do there, or maybe he just needs more velo. But otherwise, I mean, he looks like a fun, effective pitcher, and definitely a guy I think we talked to that he's going to be on our next top 30 for sure.
Yeah. I mean, pretty huge ride on the fastball. The 20 IVB thing that was it Baseball America keeps posting and going on. I mean, that's huge induced vertical break numbers right there. So yeah, he can definitely live at the top of the zone with the four seamer, and he looks like a guy whose mechanics could still be worked on a little bit and tightened up. And he's not, he's not a big guy. What is he, 6'1"?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Let me.
Like he seems to get pretty good extension already, which is going to help him. You'd kind of like to see him drive down the mound a little bit. There's maybe a little bit more like leg build up to be done here. He's kind of a rail, but
I was gonna say probably maybe a little more muscle, because that was one thing that I was talking to Jeff Pontus about from Baseball America, is if he can get a little more velocity at his fastball, that will, I mean, he'd be an elite pitcher that way. And maybe that's something that comes. By the way, that was a bad route by Roberto Campos on that ball. I'm sorry. That was just that was a rough route there by Campos. But yeah, there's what I like about him too, and this is what I was talking about earlier with his curveball. The thing is, he kind of breaks. Sometimes I get hung up, and it just he can get hammered. And there was a couple times and Quad Cities has got a couple guys too that can hit the ball barrel pretty well. That was a good pitch right there. It looks like was that slider or is it slurvy?
I think that was more the slurvy curve, and then the slider is sort of a short one.
Yeah. See, and then just the way he can spot that fastball away, he's got some good riding action. But yeah, it was fun to cut this start, because it was just, he also is a very, like, his mechanics are very repeatable, very efficient with his mechanics, and that's something like he doesn't, there's no wasted motion. You know what I mean? Like, it's just everything that comes together when he.
Yeah, there's no over rotation. There's no sort of like, things going in different directions. He's lined up and driving straight at the plate pretty well, pretty clean. I mean, will the Tigers like shorten that arm action the way they did with Melton? I don't know if it seems like they probably would have already like started him out working on that this offseason if they were going to make a concerted effort to do that. So maybe they'll kind of just go with it. I kind of think like the shorter arm stroke actually gives you more deception personally. I saw someone in the comments kind of feeling the other way. It sort of depends on your mechanics and like how closed off you are to home plate as you're driving and stuff like that. But I don't know. There's definitely a lot of raw material there. He just looks like really like a really good young college pitcher, like brand new. So yeah, with plenty of potential, like pretty consistent, and yeah, when you can ride it in there with that much induced vertical break, you definitely have something to start with. And he can spin the breaking balls. I don't have his spin rates, but they look like he can kind of yak that thing a little bit. So yeah, plenty of raw material there. He's definitely a guy that's going to be popping up on the list here whenever people get around to doing their like mid-season updates. Did you guys see Dylan Smith, by the way? I mean, we kind of mentioned him, but is he throwing harder? Because I did see that one outing in the Arizona Fall League, or maybe it was two outings, where he touched 98 a couple times, and I've been kind of waiting for them to like develop him physically a little bit more, but
I thought down in Lakeland was like 94, 95 from what I was hearing.
That's usually where he is, but there was that one outing where late last fall he was really airing it out, and he was wild too. So I don't know if he was just trying to throw his hardest. I'm not exactly sure what the plan development wise was there in the fall league, but I haven't quite given up on him yet.
Yeah, no, I haven't. I actually didn't dig into either of his starts. I was starting to, and then I kind of got sidetracked. But it still seems to be like there's some solid raw stuff there. You like the slider. He's got the separate curve. But he's a guy that seems to he also will occasionally run into some control issues and then uncork a wild pitch or two and then gets himself into some trouble. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I wonder if he might not be a pretty solid relief arm down the road if they want to go that route with him, because I do think the stuff is there to do it.
Yeah. And after, kind of just being banged up last year, not really even anything that specific, just arm fatigue and things like that. This is probably kind of a big year for him to see if he can stay as a starter and develop a little bit. Otherwise, maybe we'll see them push him into Wilmer territory. I assume Wilmer's being converted full-time. It sure looks like it.
So we have Hamm's spin rates from last year. We have from his brief period in Lakeland. If you want, his four-seamer was average 2,420.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And the curve was 2,656. And change up 1628. So nice and low.
Yeah, that's good.
So there you go.
Right on. Okay, plenty to work with there. A lot of raw material. What was he, the fifth rounder last year?
I believe he was. Yeah. So it was Clark, McGonigal, Anderson, Wilson, Rucker.
Yeah. Okay.
Hamm.
Yeah, out of Middle Tennessee State.
I believe Middle Tennessee State. Yeah, in my head it's always Memphis for some reason, but I think you're right. I think it's Middle Tennessee State. I guess Memphis is kind of in the middle of Tennessee, isn't it? Maybe not. I don't know. My Tennessee geography is not.
I don't. Yeah, I think Memphis is over by the river. Walking to Memphis, right? I don't know. Jeff Buckley died in Memphis, I think, didn't he?
No, was that the Mississippi?
I think so.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah, that looks. That's very much not the middle of Memphis, Tennessee. Anyway,
I was being general.
Yeah, I've never been to. I drove through Tennessee once. Yeah. So then we have the Flying Tigers, who are one of the more enjoyable teams this year. Not just because they have last year's first overall pick, but there's a lot of fun stuff going on there, and they crushed it last week. They swept. I think it's called a mopping, right? When you win more than I think a 4-game sweep is called a mop. So I don't know what a 6-game sweep is. That's like a Swiffer.
Yeah.
It was. I know Raj wanted to talk about Pat Caputo's. I don't know if it was an article or podcast where he was talking about Max Clark overwhelmed by low A pitching. And,
maybe we can wait for Max Clark till Raj gets back. And
yeah.
Okay.
Because
there's a lot.
Oh.
There was a lot that went on. We had the Kiwi Crusher out there, Clayton Campbell hitting bombs,
Yeah.
Jose De La Cruz hitting 2 absolute nukes. Yeah, a lot of fun stuff like that, and then the actual prospects,
Yeah, last I checked, De La Cruz had the 2 hardest home runs hit in the Florida State League so far this year. One was 110.9, the other one was 112, and they were both 430, or one was 410, the other one was 430. But yeah,
he just had some little better hands and discipline. Son of a bitch.
Yeah, well, and that's Clayton Campbell. When you see him hit the ball, you're like, hey, this might work, because he really turned on a ball. He's got 3 home runs right now, I think, which is leading the league. I can't help but, and this is probably just me, my Oceania bias, but I can't help but think of somebody like Ulrich Bojarski, who could crush low A hitting too or pitching too. Had that big power, but couldn't quite do anything else. With the bat.
And Campbell consistently 30% plus strikeout rates, but every once in a while you get that 108 mile per hour just missile somewhere.
And he was an absolute extra base hit machine in the complex league last year. I think he had like 16 doubles, and I want to say he had like 20 extra base hits in 30 games or something wild like that. And so I mean, he adds some scary thump to that lineup, which is kind of fun. Just thinking in for Andrew Graham's world, like, hey,
Florida State League context. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think the guys, obviously everybody wants to talk about Clark, but I think everybody else is super excited about Josue Briceno, and they have a right to be. There's a lot of fun stuff going on there. It is kind of hilarious that like every single ball he puts in the plate, unless it's a pop-up, everything he hits is like 98 to 107 miles an hour, and it'll be like, oh, that's a weak ground out. Nope, 104. I'm like, what? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, he's just got those forearms and wrists, baby. Yeah. Everything is just smashed. Pretty good discipline too, at least for that level. So maybe that I kind of equate that kind of discipline to like control over command for hitters, but you got to see him against a lot better pitching than that. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like there's much else for him to learn down there offensively, at least. I assume that he's down there to keep working on his catching and keep getting put through the ringer there. And, we can talk about that a little bit. He did throw out a couple runners this weekend. That was kind of nice to see. Looked pretty good. He's not quick. He's not going to have probably explosive pop times, but I just want him to be like that dude who could be like your backup catcher if you actually had a good everyday catcher and then can play some first base and just be sort of your V-Mart would be my sort of ideal Briceno outcome, something like that. Well, I mean, all right, Brick Fair Martinez is a little bit like shooting for the moon, but you know what I mean?
No, I get what you're saying. And like you said, I do think it's average to above average arm strength. I caught both those pop times is at right around 2 seconds. I think it is kind of a slower release, but I think the raw arm strength kind of makes up for it. So that part works. I think he's fairly agile for a guy that size. He's not real Muto or anything like that. But the only thing that I've noticed so far is the hands just might not quite be there.
The 1-1 pitch, Castillo goes. Briceno pops out of the crowd.
Just a dart.
And his throws were accurate. Both of the times that they ran on him, he was.
You can tell he's been working on getting it more overhand too, to take the tail off of it, and you see it on both of those, so that's good. Maybe hands won't matter anymore, Chris. Bring us the automated ball strike system. I'm sick of framing.
It does
Screw
still
these guys in their soft, buttery hands.
he does occasionally have the ball pop out of his glove too, which is but again, like, and I've talked about it before, and you touched on it. Like, the approach is good enough. He did strike out swinging yesterday, which was shocking to me. I think he walked twice this week and struck out once. It's like he's
on the mound.
He really doesn't chase very often, and
seems like he takes some pitches in the zone too that he doesn't like already, which is another thing. It's sort of like, it's a little bit advanced for that level for sure.
And this
that swing was like a golf swing too. He barreled it. I mean, the way he put his hands on that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that was the barrel on it. Yeah,
that was a 3-1 pitch, and I think it was it was a splitter or a change. I think that was at the bottom of the zone, but he was just I don't know if he was sitting on it or was just about to swing it. Whatever came at 3-1, and I mean, that was a low line drive, like 19-degree launch angle, but he hit it out because he's so strong. And he's had a couple deep fly balls that, one should have been a double, but it was kind of screwed up by some base running. And yeah, I mean, I guess that's the ultimate question is how much power is he going to produce? I mean, you would think that he's got plenty in the tank, but you never know with guys that hit the ball this hard. Like sometimes they're Yandy Diaz.
Yeah.
But yeah, certainly a really exciting player. And like I watch all these games, and I'm like eager to get Max Clark and clip him, and then I have to hurry up and stop and go back and make sure that Briceno didn't do something.
Yeah.
So I know it's fun to watch, but it's a little bit tough if you're trying to get clips up on the internet.
I mean, we're not used to that much going on at Lakeland sometimes either, And then
you
got
or having cameras.
Yeah, well, I know, and like all the
or having a broadcaster.
Yeah. Joe doing a pretty nice job. Was it Puccio?
Yeah. Think of The Simpsons with Poochie and
it was also, I mean, here's the guy who also had a good week too, Clayton Campbell. I got both of his home runs.
Clayton Campbell.
Yeah, we were just talking about him. Yeah, the Kiwi crusher.
Yeah, his swing, just like almost like straight up upright. The way they had the bat, it's just man.
Yeah, I mean, he whipped it to the zone. I mean, that was nice and clean right there. It's just
he's only 22, right? He's IFA out of New Zealand 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, and he's another catcher, first baseman. I don't know if he's playing third base at all anymore, but
him hit ball hard, and we find
on their feet, dance.
Yeah, they'll figure out something for him.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, he's hitting the ball hard, and we're seeing a lot of that. He's a Jose De La Cruz we were talking about earlier, just 2 absolute moonshots.
6-game hit or 5-game hitting streak too.
Yeah, you hold out hope. You got to get those strikeouts down, and but yeah, at this point, it's just kind of fun to watch him hit the ball hard. I think, and it was interesting. Dom Johnson had that 1 4-for-4 game with 2 home runs.
Yeah, that was fun.
And then Christian Santana had a very Christian Santana week. 2 for 13. The only 2 hits were extra base hits, and then he walked more than he struck out.
Yep. He's a
triple away.
He's an interesting hitter, man.
Here's Dom Johnson home run. This was.
Oh yeah.
I think this was the second. Yeah, this was a second home run here.
Yeah, this is the game that got out of hand, and they called, I think, in the 7th inning because of the rain. Yeah. But
let's crush that one.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a guy that I really
for a small guy.
Yeah, you don't really think about power with him. He was a very fast guy, and he had his chance up in high A last year and didn't go great. But maybe he's made some adjustments and can do a little something this year. And then this is
Christian Santana.
Oh yeah. Yeah, if you could just forge Dom Johnson and Seth Stevenson into like one high-powered version of that, I'd love it. Seth Stevenson's going to be a lot of fun to watch at West Michigan leading off if the rest of those guys can at least do enough to get him in, because he's electric out there, but it's kind of all on Max Anderson's shoulders there at West Michigan right now.
Wow. So we were just talking about the White Sox earlier on the podcast, on the Motor City Metrics when we did a podcast earlier. I said the White Sox got shut out 5 times. Now it's been 6 times. Since the 1907 Dodgers.
Oh wow!
And you know what? I didn't even I didn't remember until my buddy Rob told me they can't have a top 10 pick next year.
Oh, that's right.
They're going to have the worst record in baseball and not a top 10 pick because they've had them the last 2 years, and because of their market, they can't get it anymore. So,
I mean, you know what though? I mean, really,
A feat not accomplished since the 1907 Dodgers of Elmer
Yeah.
Strickland and Whitey Alperman. I mean, you know, somebody said, who was it? One of our, I think it was the Bleed Cubby Blue, like manager at SB Nation was talking about like, oh, that might be the worst team, the worst White Sox team of all time. Might be the worst team of all time. And you know, I've got the Tigers in my head from, like, nah, there's no chance. You've at least got Garrett Crochet, but then I mean, you've got Luis Robert down. You've got Moncada's out. It's a mess.
Yeah, but and
106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses.
the thing about that too is that the projected number 1 pick in 2025 is Ethan Holiday, who was supposed to be better than So
can we hire Max Holiday to raise children in the Detroit area and turn them into ball players?
Just turn him as a bull, like, you know.
Can he adopt Christopher? Let him adopt Christopher Cabrera.
Or just like use a seed, like he's just like a bull, you know. You put him out the pastures, just producing baseball talent.
So,
a prize stallion, that Matt Holiday. Damn it,
ladies and gentlemen, we've made the Nelson Mandela effect. We put a bull out to steed on this podcast.
C. Riley Arthur here asked, "Can you not do back-to-back top 10 picks anymore? You cannot do 3 years in a row, I believe. If I want to say you can't do 2 years in a row if you are like the Nats couldn't last year because of, you know, it involves
its market size,
your market size and your payroll.
Yeah, you can't be a lottery team a certain amount of times in a row. It's still the lottery too, of course.
I don't believe the Tigers. I mean, we don't even want to think about it, but yeah, it's too complicated now. But that's the thing. The Nats actually won the lottery last year, but they couldn't have the first pick, so they ended up picking 10th.
Yep.
And then and so the White Sox won't be able to get Ethan Holiday unless something crazy happens, or whomever else they want at number 1. But
so we did get a question about Brady.
Brady
Trachonic, who is out injured with a torn meniscus, I believe.
No, I think he had the meniscus at the end of last year, and I think he's out with a UCL now. I think he's getting Tommy John.
Ooh.
I want to say the last injury report, I thought it was a UCL. I may be mistaken.
Actually, I knew it was at least bad. It was bad enough to write him off for the year anyway.
Yeah, because he's on the full season injured list, which is a bummer because he was a Canadian born JUCO kid who put up monster numbers and was relatively young, and they gave him a pretty big bonus. I want to say they went like 300,000 over slot there in the 14th round or whenever they got him.
Wasn't he like the JUCO player of the year, or JUCO hitter of the year, or something like that?
It was, I believe, a school out in Oklahoma, right? Was it that community college?
Connors State.
Yeah. So this was a good.
Chris is correct, of course.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and Colin. Yeah, I was just gonna say we were both at the same time. Did you expect Colt to go through some early struggles at the major league level? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
I actually didn't think. I kind of thought it would be more like he just didn't hit for power for a month or two, you know, and maybe would hold his own a little better than he has. But you know, it's whatever. It's 17 games or something.
Yeah,
he looks pretty comfortable. He looks like he's settling in. I just still feel like, I think I said this earlier, I'm going to repeat myself, but he just looks like he's got a little bit too much in his head right now, and probably should just chill out there and see ball, hit ball for a little while, because you know they try to acclimate them more and more to the kind of scouting reports and the kind of detailed planning that you're going to do at the major league level. So it's not like he hasn't seen all that before, but there is a lot of information to process and everything's new. You know, it just takes a little bit. I'm not concerned about Colt Keith at all. I'm actually kind of thrilled with Colt Keith because his defense has been even better than I hoped so far, and he actually looks faster. And I think there's some proof to suggest that he actually did build some speed this offseason. So, like, I don't know, maybe we should just shut the hell up about, you know, infielders and their defensive abilities till we see him at the major league level, because it just feels like, you know, Young, now him, you know, it's like you just never know. You know, some guys put the work in and really turn it around, and other guys just never will, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there's a bunch there with Colt Keith. I think it's almost right now that it feels like he's trying too hard to not strike out, if that makes any sense. And so he's trying to put the ball in play, and he's not really launching. He's got one extra base hit so far, which is not him. But we predicted this. We talked about every time he's gone up a level, there's been an adjustment period, and this is the biggest jump of all. So it's going to be the longest period of him trying to figure things out. But every time he has figured it out, and he's just a quick learner in that way. That the way that guys can, what you want to see from hitters is they eventually download what the pitchers are trying to do to them and figure out a way to get out of it. And I believe in his ability to do that. But for now, we knew he was more athletic than he was getting credit for. And I thought, he was faster than people were giving him credit for. I did not expect him to be putting up, he's +2 outs above average. He's +1 DRS. I didn't expect him to be an above average defender.
He's never been like a statue or anything. I just didn't. My concern was, does he have the agility to play around second base? Like when you're taking feeds from Javi Baez, you better be sharp and quick. And for the most part, he's been pretty good. Like there's some little things like getting the ball out of his glove a little faster with the shovel toss. There've been a few times where he's not quite like quick enough and sharp enough to be exactly on time with Baez right now. But it's been better than I expected overall. So that doesn't seem to be a problem. He's also got, I think, 2 warning track fly balls. He got Comerica, 410 feet away at one point. So it's not like he hasn't hit anything hard either.
I mean, the one thing that is it's the reason why I think that Brandon, this is where it helps him. His baseball overall IQ helps him with those kind of like scenarios where he's still getting used to playing second base on a full-time basis.
Yeah.
I mean, last year, if you think about it, he didn't start. I mean, he started the year playing third last year, and I think it was until like halfway through the year. And even then, correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen, I think he still has some time in at third base between him and Malloy towards the end of the season last year in Toledo. So the fact that he's adjusting to this position relatively quickly is, to me, insane. I mean, I expected the arm is, Chris, you guys both have talked about this. The arm, the third, the way he changed his throw after his surgery, was different. And then it just kind of showed that last year from third base, he didn't have that range like he once did. But no, I mean, again, based off the contact, even with him trying to go the opposite way, where he says he's trying not to, quote unquote, but then we still see it there was an at bat last week where it was in the New York series. I really thought that he did a really good job of trying to go to left on that. When he tried to get that double, that was him trying to just take the ball to go with that. And that's a prime example of a good at bat by a rookie there. And
and he really drove that ball. That was a cold, blustery day in New York. Yeah. I mean, I think I mentioned it earlier, right? Like his batting average is much lower than his expected batting average, just slugging. I went and looked. Like if he's walking like 9%, striking out under 20%, if you take his expected batting average and expected slugging and keep this walk rate, it equates to like a 115 WRC plus.
Yeah.
That's like, he's at like 33
with plus defense,
Yeah. And that's a 3 to 4 win player. And that's exactly what everybody hoped he would be. We just need to start. And I think he needs to start seeing the ball drop. But he seems to be a pretty level-headed kid, and I think he's going to keep grinding through this. And I do think he'll eventually start becoming that hitter that we all hoped he would.
Yeah, and if I like one more little like hint of optimism is just the way he's transformed himself. Like every single year, like after year one, it was, where's the power? Adds 40 pounds of muscle. Starts absolutely just hitting tanks all over the place. And then, it was okay, but what about the defense? And now we're seeing the defense get addressed and the agility and those other things. So it seems like whenever he focuses on something, he gets it done. And that's a really good sign for him at the plate as well. He's he doesn't look overmatched to me. So I think he'll be fine. I kind of been expecting him to break out like almost every game this, the last weekend. So yeah.
Same here. I keep
waiting. But it'll come at some point,
Yeah,
he had the big hit in extra innings the other day, but then it just didn't end up being the winner.
Yeah, I mean, the thing you said earlier, it does feel like either he's trying not to strike out, but he's trying to put together good at bats. Mm-hmm. And when it comes down to just trying to hit, there have been pitches that were down that maybe at AAA last year he would have just been like, oh, I can crush that, rather than like, oh, I got to take that because I'm at the major league level now. You start learning where you can expand the zone a little bit when you're looking there and all those little details. So,
I mean, It does help too that his agent, I mean, the biggest thing that I took away from the press conference was I didn't realize the kind of relationship he had with his agent, which is like kind of their best friend. I used to play for the Dodger system, and so he understand how the ups and downs and all that, working on each. Remember, we had him on our interview series. It was him working with Trammell in the Arizona Fall League, trying to work on getting better at fielding because all he was doing was hitting, and he was like, I immediately had to take the field because I felt like I wasn't ready to even take close. And this is the guy who breathes and sleeps the game, and it sounds like a really, really kissing his ass, but honestly, it's nothing like it's. As long as we've been doing this, I just never seen a player just so like zoned in like that. And so for his age and everything. And by the way, Sean, thank you so much for the $3.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm gonna say
time.
I like the suggestion. I'm sure Mark Garage appreciates the O'Neill mention. O'Neill I would like to have right now, but I'm pretty happy with Flaherty. Like, this feels like almost like the worst Jack Flaherty is going to pitch with the stuff having improved a little bit. So I'm not real concerned about that. I do wish we had another bat, of course, anywhere.
Did you guys see that collision today? The Devers and O'Neill collision? That was brutal.
Busted O'Neill's head open. 8 stitches. Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
man,
he was bleeding all over the place. It was
Devers was going out to left field and he was coming in, and nobody said anything apparently.
It occurs to me that we did not even talk about Max Clark.
We were saving that for Raj. This is all scripted. Don't worry.
We also I did want to mention just briefly the pitching down there in Lakeland, because that was pretty good too. You had the Joes, a couple lefties down there, Joe Miller and Joe Adamets, that were really just kind of toying with the other hitters. And the bullpen there have been some walking issues against Dunedin, but they were pretty strong this week. And Josue Sanchez, Thomas Bruss, and yes, Eker Wheezy, hands down my favorite name in the system. And you know what? He's got pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to clip together I think a couple of his innings here soon, because I don't know if it means much going forward, but he seems like a guy who could be up in West Michigan, maybe even Erie by the end of the year, because the stuff is there. He's throwing 96, 98.
Yeah.
So
you guys want me to go on a tangent about Max Clark, or the person that was talking about Max Clark on the air?
Do whatever you got to do.
Let's talk shoe game. No, all right.
Let's,
go ahead. Do that first.
Okay, well, here's the thing. So his shoe game, I'm trying to find that picture of him, Max Clark, who
it was Danny Wexelman, I think, was the first person to put it out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sound right?
That does sound right. Maybe a friend of his or something. I don't know.
So it's one of those things where it was. I'm gonna see if I can find it real quick. Well, no, I'll find it here. But let me just say this, okay? On the shoe, you can find it yourself. You can do that yourself. One shoe said the negative comments. Other shoe said the positive comments. There's a certain person who did a podcast in town, Pat Caputo, and Pat Caputo basically had said that he couldn't handle high A or single A pitching. Tell me tell me you haven't watched a single game without telling me you haven't watched a single game of minor league baseball in the last couple of years. No offense to Pat. Pat's been in business for a long time. He's on Fox too. I'm doing a podcast on YouTube, while my son makes me barbecue. That's what I'm doing right now.
But we're more right. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, look. And Luke, by the way, good to see you here in the chat, by the way. Nice Jeff Larish reference here. Here's the thing. No, at least when you talk about prospects, at least pretend or even watch them. Actually watch them. Okay? But the fact that here's the thing that drives me nuts about this, okay?
Or shut up.
We're all knowledgeable here. I'm in the we're like, you guys could easily be in the Baseball Writers Association, no problem. Because you have an outlet, an FM outlet, that gives you the right to say stupid shit. No, it shouldn't, because quite frankly, it's dumb. Do the fucking research and actually pay attention. I'm sorry. I just can't hold back anymore and be polite about this crap. It's driving me nuts. Sorry. If I'm swearing and there's people in here that don't, and normally I don't swear. I normally don't swear, but I just get so frustrated with this stuff because there's guys like that who have the clout, and he's been around for a while. The kid's 19 years old. You say stuff. I know why you're doing it. You're trying to get attention. I get it. You're getting my attention.
Exactly.
And that's fine. You're getting my attention. But this guy, I can't.
Yeah.
Go. I just cannot fathom the fact that here we are when we're trying to get people to, pay attention to the website. It's not just clips. People know we know our shit. People know we know our stuff. But yet you get overshadowed by a jackass who just, and I'm sorry, that's just a stupid thing to say. And I would say it to his face, and I have no problem saying it. I don't care. I don't care. I'm so sick and tired of it.
To say. But you know, and the worst thing is he knows better. Like if Mike Valeni said that stuff, it's just Mike Valeni being Mike Valeni. But Pat Caputo knows that like judging an 18-year-old kid by 40 at bats or something like that is the dumbest, least baseball sense thing you could possibly say. But it gets him the clicks, and I mean,
it gets the
there's
clicks. I know
nothing to
why
respect there. So
yeah, and look, and if I want to get the clicks,
I don't hate you, Pat, but suck it.
Yeah, but like you know what? Look, I can have doubled down and gone on a rant about how I did last year in the draft when they drafted Max Clark. Originally, I was upset, but then I thought about it. I'm like, I'm not giving this kid why am I not giving this kid a chance? It's not fair to me. It's not fair to him.
I'm still upset about it, but it doesn't have anything to do with Max Clark.
Exactly. It has nothing to do with Max Clark.
Put that on Max Clark.
Yeah, it's not his fault. But to sit there and you've been watching this team since the 80s. You've had the same spot since the 80s, entrenched yourself. And then, because I don't run the same circles, and I respect his work. I do. I've honestly, but at the same time, it's just shit like that just drives me nuts because somehow we have to sit there and we have to prove ourselves over and over and over again. And I'm fucking tired of it. I really am. Walter, all these people that follow us here that watch the show and respect our show, great. I love our fans. I love the people who stay in and who dedicate to us and who donate to us. I appreciate that. But when I see that hot click bullshit, the click bullshit like that, drives me nuts. Because even a guy like Chris Castelli, for example, I respect him because his baseball takes, he does his baseball takes, he does his thing. I mean, can he do things for click and make it even worse? Or maybe not even worse, but make it more clickbaity? Sure, but that's not him. Chris is just being him. But Pat knows better. And that's the thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was pretty gross. I mean,
yeah,
it is whatever. I mean, you can tear yourself up about the whole issue of like establishment media versus, people who actually know what they're talking about.
You guys are in a basement. You guys are at somebody's house. You guys are not on an FM station. If I had an FM station, I would be doing the same shit as you and doing it better than you. Simple as fucking that.
Yeah, I mean, if I wanted to go back and just drag the entirety of the entire Detroit beat writing community from 2014 to 2022, and compare them to me, I'll take the Pepsi challenge. But I don't even care about any of that. It's just that Max Clark, putting Max Clark in that situation and putting the fans in that situation where someone who people listen to every day. And start to think that maybe this is actually the case. Like Max Clark sucks. Max Clark doesn't care. Yeah. He's a fruitcake. And who has to explain this to people and hear all the crap and gentle everyone down and bring some sense of reason back to it? And it's always us. So it just annoys me on that level. But whatever.
But here's the thing, whatever.
Max Clark will be fine.
Yeah, Max Clark will be fine. And the beat writers like McCoskey, all those guys down there, I love them because they're the ones that gave me an opportunity to go down there, and I'm forever grateful for them because they go down there every single day, rain or shine, doesn't matter. Jason Beck, Evan, all those guys. I haven't seen Pat at a game. When did Pat go to a fucking game? Fuck that. Sorry. I'm done swearing, I promise.
So
I'm done.
So here's why I kind of throw a monkey wrench in the works. I don't think Pat was wrong. he said Max Clark appears overwhelmed in by A-ball pitching. And I agreed with him for the first handful of days.
Yeah, I don't know if I take overwhelmed, but anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
So the thing is, and I went and looked, he did absolutely nothing against any kind of velocity. Like anything above 92 miles an hour was hit on the ground, and relatively weakly. He was just late on every fastball. Yeah, that happens. That's what's happening with Parker Meadows. It's happening with Spencer Torkelson. And then at the end of this weekend, he was turning on fastballs. He had gotten to that double was 95.9 miles per hour. He lined 100 mile an hour liner to first base on a 96.3 mile an hour pitch. He fixed it. He fixed his timing. It took him less than like 10 games. So he did appear overwhelmed. He doesn't anymore. I think you guys are both right though that Pat was saying that for no good reason. I was just torn with this because I keep saying there were going to be clowns who were just going to complain about Max Clark no matter what. And I was trying to not feed into them while also voicing my critiques of what I was seeing.
Right, because he hasn't. I mean, yeah, nobody's arguing that he's taken the world by storm. He's been struggling for sure,
and
taking some time to adapt. But again, it's that short cycle. Like anyone who knows baseball knows that, like, calling out a kid for 10 games as overwhelmed
wasn't even
too much. That's just too much. Like he's been late on fastballs for a few games. That is the way you accurately say it if you're not just trying to like stir up the hornet's nest. But whatever,
and
Raj gets mad about these things.
He wasn't
ambivalent, but yeah,
he's not striking out like 30% of the time. He's taking his walks. He's got a pretty good eye. He's got good defensive ability. He's fast. There's all sorts of good stuff there. Like I don't know. Everybody wants to put that the Corbin Carroll comp on him, which is not fair. I think. I don't know. I don't know if there is a great one-to-one comp. I was thinking more maybe along the lines of like Pete Crow Armstrong.
Yeah.
But I think I don't know. That's tough because Pete Crow Armstrong's main talent is going to be playing defense in center field, and he's proven that over the years in pro ball. And we just need to see more from Max Clark. And I actually think Max Clark may be more of a on base guy than Pete Crow Armstrong. Pete Crow Armstrong's kind of aggressive, and I don't know if he's going to do much there. So like I said, there's not a great comp, but I don't know. I mean, it's so early. All I would say, I don't agree with what Pat was. I think there needed to be more nuance than what he was putting out there.
Yeah. Well, and the other little thing I'll add to it, I guess, in Pat's defense is that Max Clark is the type of kid who is okay making himself the target, or is okay putting himself out there in ways that like the old heads are always going to be annoyed by, and maybe that plays into it a little bit as well. But again, like you say, this is all talk, and we're just gonna have to see how he works out this year. But it doesn't come to, I wanted Wyatt Langford 100%, and when I saw what had happened with pick 1 and 2, I thought for sure, like I was already like out the door, like we got Wyatt Langford. So I'm in that play, but it doesn't mean that I'm unhappy with Max Clark, or that Max Clark sucks, or has anything to do with Max Clark. The pick is one thing, and then there's the development, and that's a whole other area. So
what did Max Clark and Wyatt Langford have in common? Neither of them played in Detroit tonight.
Yep.
Yeah. There you go. Let me just say this, and I'm going to say it as calm as possible. And I'm just, Brandon, the reason why, and Chris knows why, the reason why I get mad about this is because
I know why. Yeah.
Because it's just because like it's when you work for a site, say like, I don't know, fan-sided, where they don't even take your stuff seriously, but you have to write something that's clickbaity. Of course,
there's a lot of weak gatekeeping in this industry.
Yeah, 100%. Very, very weird gatekeeping, and I never will understand it, and that's okay. Quite frankly, I just to sit there and say I don't care is bullshit. I do care. I get mad about it passionately because I feel like we've all earned the right to have some sort of, but it is what it is, and it's no big deal. And like I said, it is honestly, it's not to me. Honestly, it's not a big deal because. If I'm only ambivalent because
it's been so long. That's all it is.
Right.
I felt the same way 5 or 6 years ago, and I was writing circles around these people about the rebuild, and they're still kind of boosting Alavila, and none of them understand StatCast data, have not the faintest clue what they're talking about, and haven't done anything.
And that's but like for example, I've met Luke, I've met Sean, I met some of these people that were in the chat tonight, and they were fantastic people, and the experiences I've had with that, I will, I mean, same thing. I've met you through this whole thing. I've met some really good people. I met Mark Gurash, and technically, you're welcome, Mark. You're now podcasting because of what I've done. I'm just. Is it not true? Isn't it not true that?
Well, it's 100% true.
Yeah. So, but then again, somebody has a job at the Free Press. Guess who doesn't? Not this guy.
Not this guy.
No,
I will.
Whatever.
I will say this, though. I wanted to add one more thing, and that's just that one thing that's been great the last 3 or 4 years, though, is Evan Petzold and Cody Stavenhagen. Like the beat writing game in town just went through the roof finally, and it was it was kind of abysmal before that. I love Fennec. There were things that were good about prior to that, but the whole game has just stepped up so much, and that's really been a pleasure to see. I'm a big fan of Cody's writing. I don't get a chance to listen to the podcast much, but and I listen to Days of Roar occasionally. But as you guys know, when you do this, like the last thing you want to do is consume a whole lot more of it when you're not the one doing it. It's just the way it goes. I'm trying to get away from baseball, for that 1 or 2 hours a day, maybe.
So you throw on the Hardcore History podcast.
Yeah.
Or whatever. No, I just wanted to mention that it's been great fun watching Lakeland for these last 2 weeks, and now we get to go a week without seeing them because I don't believe Palm Beach has a broadcast.
Yeah.
But then, and they're on the road for 2 weeks straight. Then they're at Tampa, which does have a broadcast. So just taking a week off.
Yeah.
The question becomes, when is Kevin McGonigal going to come back? Because that's another really fun hitter that we're going to get a chance to see. We know he's got a bit of a hammy issue. I'm curious if they'll have him go out on any of these road trips. Or if they may just wait until Lakeland is back in town so he can be there at the facility. Or if that's the thing, they don't come back home to play till the 30th, and then the complex league starts like a week later. So maybe they just wait till then and have him play complex ball. But
it seems like they just like let him warm up the complex league pitchers and scare them.
Yeah, that would be
like
fun.
Bullets off of
like
them. Just
Paul Wilson, Blake
Yeah.
Blake Dickerson, Jack Diaz. Like, get ready, guys. You
but
have a hard time throwing past that kid for now.
It's gonna be it's a fun squad right now. It just as we said, it'll be interesting to see how long they keep Briceno down there when he ends up with 20 walks and 5 strikeouts.
Deadly ninja bees. Fans better get used to drafting high schoolers. That's the fucking facts right there. You better be ready.
Is Paul Wilson still hurt?
Connor and Metzler are going to draft a lot of high school kids because you just can't find that college talent very easily.
I think he's throwing though. I think Paul Wilson is throwing though. By the way,
I don't think Paul Wilson was on the injured list their list of all the injured minor leaguers the other day. Blake Dickerson was with a concussion. We're like, what?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was like, I wonder how that happened.
Oh, geez.
But maybe he was, in the offseason he does that like the slap boxing.
He was pitching to Kevin McGonigal. That's what.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
don't even get me started on slap. That sport's ridiculous.
I made the mistake of showing my son and his friends that yesterday, and I'm like, well, then they were like slapping each other. I'm like, oh boy, I'm going to hear about this from the teacher.
Yeah. Especially when you do the slow mo too, you just see like literally the skull moved out of the eyes, like just like.
Yeah, people get knocked out like
ridiculous. But thank you so much
for Max Holloway for winning at UFC 300 the other night.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So a vicious punch. You got some really good commenters here too. I'm finally starting to read some people. There's
Zeke. There's
some Riley's good. Zeke's in there.
Yeah, we have like I said, we have a very good, loyal fan base here, and I appreciate it. And so thank you again. I'm really sorry for being a little profanity laced. That's normally not like me, but I've seen some things in the last couple of weeks. I'm just like, I just can't keep my mouth shut anymore. I just can't. I can't do it anymore because what bridge do I've done? I've built bridges. I've built towns. I built empires and all that stuff. And I mean, I am using a lot of Sims references, but the point I'm trying to make is that.
What's so funny is that you and I have had this conversation for like 8 years that eventually the Tigers are going to be watchable, and all these media people are going to like horn back in here and like try to talk like they know what they're talking about after we've been in the grind here, covering Lakeland when there's no one down there. I also wanted to mention Kristen Stewart is, I believe, playing Mexican League Baseball.
Yeah,
so there you go.
With Dawel Lugo.
One of 5 Tiger. Was it Jonathan Scopes?
Time goes by so fast. He's 30 years old now. Kristen Stewart.
Wow.
That was the draft pick they got from letting Max Scherzer go.
Yep.
And here's the final question for the evening, by the way. This is a good one. What are your opinions on the Tigers potentially moving to prep heavy draft strategy, given Mark Connor stays with San Diego? That's a very good question, Jordan. It's already happening now.
Yeah.
I am all for it as I watch Jackson Merrill hitting 350 in the big leagues and James Wood hitting 600-foot home runs in AAA and Robert Gasser is like a top 100 prospect. They absolutely murdered that draft class.
Yeah. And then, just look no further than Mark Elias and everything he's ever done. So, I mean, you just, we all know this. You can't, after the first round, it's just really hard to find college talent that is really got the potential to pop. Like, everybody knows their data. Everybody knows, their power potential. Everybody knows all that. So if you're going to steal anything, you got to steal them young.
Yeah.
That sounds sus. But anyway.
No, it's true. It's in life and in baseball.
I mean, and what I loved about that strategy is that they didn't like sit there like, how much are we going to need to get all these guys? They just took everybody they wanted and figured we'll figure it out. If they blow us off because we're offering $400,000 and want to go to college, fuck them.
Yeah.
We'll just take as many as we like and make it work. That's a good strategy to me. Top 3 or 4 rounds, go some college, fine. But yeah. So.
Yeah, the Cole Keith. I mean, take the attitude Cole Keith had about college. Screw college. He knew better. He knew better.
I can get A's and and play an hour less baseball a week, or I can get B's and C's and play baseball full time. And I'm going to play baseball full time. That's a kid who knew what he wanted to do. I wish I had that kind of clarity. Tell you the truth.
He made the right choice, I would say.
Yeah, he did for sure.
Walter Jenkins is better than Max Clark.
Walker Jenkins.
I kind of like Walter Jenkins a lot too, to be honest.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's got one plate appearance this year. He ran into the center field wall, as all Twins center fielders do. No, he's that was a generational top 5 of the draft. We'll see what happens with all of them. But we've already seen Paul Skeens looks absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
He's
Dylan Cruz is finally hitting too.
Dylan Cruz is warming up. Langford's already in the big leagues.
Max Clark just needs to get the roller going, get those forearms built up, kid. You'll be fine.
And then just throughout that draft, even Matt Shaw is burning through the minors. There's a ton. Paul Wilson's doing okay. Or not? Is it Paul? Jacob Wilson. I'm sorry.
Jake, yeah.
Yeah. There's just a great draft, and we'll see what happens. But like I said, this could be 2005. It could be where everybody's good, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There was a lot to like for sure.
Yeah. On that note, okay, and then Devin interviews with the final comment of the night. I hope we just didn't draft Tony Manrich. That's a good reference right there. That's a Chris. Do you remember the Tony Manrich?
Tony Manrich, yeah. That was he the Green Bay pick?
Yeah,
number 2, and then they missed on. Was that the Barry Sanders, Deion Sanders, Troy Aikman year?
No, I think there was maybe no. I don't think it was. I think it was the year before that, or maybe it was. I don't remember.
Let me look at. I'm looking.
You look it up real quick. So while we wrap it up,
there we go. Yeah. Oof. All right. That's a good comp then. 1989 draft, first overall Troy Aikman, second Tony Manrich, third Barry Sanders, 4 Derek Thomas, 5 Deion Sanders. So you've got 4 Hall of Famers and Tony Manrich.
Oh man, that's a bad look. That's rough.
Yeah, it's a buffet. Yeah, all right. For some reason, I thought it was like an 8. I thought Manrich was maybe 88, but not 89. But so thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Everybody's chiming in on the Manrich. Yes, it was the same draft. We appreciate it. I didn't realize the amount of football talent we have in here. That's awesome. So thank you everybody for helping us out on that. Thank you so much for listening. Again, thank you for putting up with my rant. And you can find us on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to. And of course, you can find us on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. We're probably going to split this pod into 2, splitting the levels for tomorrow on the audio side of things. So we'll be back next week. Same time, about 9:00 on a Monday night after the Tigers game. Thank you again. I cannot stress to you I apologize for the rant a little bit there. It was just
it won't be the last time we're swearing about Max Clark, probably.
Yeah. About Max Clark, and we'll be swearing about something else.
Or the Tigers, or possibly Max Cacaputo.
Yeah.
Listen, okay.
Okay, 97.1.
Yeah, 248. Okay, all right. We're out of here. We'll see you next week. Have a good week, everybody.